And this is episode 30 of the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Podcast. And my guest today is Joe Pulizzi from Content Marketing Institute, where he's going to really talk about how to create epic content that people want to share and really how to put a solid content marketing strategy together for success for your business. Welcome to the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Kris Gilbertson, and I'm an author, speaker, and a coach to teaching you how to launch your own successful podcast. And the reason I designed this show is to bring you the top lifestyle entrepreneur experts from all over the world for them to share their key strategies that they've used to launch their own businesses and allow them to live life on their own terms. So tune in every Friday for new episodes and come on over and join the Lifestyle Entrepreneur community at www.lifestyleacademy.com. There you're going to receive VIP training from specific guests from the podcast, along with being able to watch all of the interviews. And I'll also be making it really easy for you to implement these strategies that you're hearing by sending you what I like to call the Lifestyle Cliff Notes on the best lessons learned on the podcast. So let's get started. All right, so before we get started with the show, I just want to thank everyone who is subscribing and leaving awesome reviews in iTunes. I'm so excited that people are enjoying these interviews. And I'm excited to announce First Fridays. So what I'm going to be doing the first Friday of every month, we're going to have a raffle for those of you that have subscribed to the podcast and then also left a review. And it'll be a raffle for $25 gift cards from iTunes, Amazon, eBay, all over the place. So all you simply need to do is just subscribe to the podcast in iTunes and then leave us a review, and your name will go in a hat, and we'll announce that the first Friday of every month. And today's loyal listener shout out goes out to Ninja Performer. They say, wow, 5 stars. Kris is a ninja interviewer. Her interviews provide a platform for her guests to shine and provide access to creating podcasts for average people. I started listening this week and tried to catch up with all the earlier episodes, and my brain froze listening to all the powerful content. It's a good thing she provides show notes because I would have to listen twice to write it all down. Watch out, Podcast Boys Club. Kris is kicking B-U-T-T. Well, thank you so much, Ninja Performer. Right back at you. Thanks for being a loyal listener and for tuning in and really getting in there to take action. All of these interviews, seriously, I know they're packed with content. So if you want a collaboration of all the best interviews, if you head over to Amazon, we just launched the first volume of the Lifestyle Entrepreneur book series. So this is the top interviews from the first 2.5 months of the launch of the podcast, and you can find it with just searching my name, Kris Gilbertson, or the Lifestyle Entrepreneur book. And there you can grab up the copy. The second volume will be launching in January with all the rest of the interviews. But it's a great way for you to easily transport this on the go as well, because I know sometimes we don't have time to take all the notes we want as we're listening. So hope that helps you in your journey to creating your lifestyle business. And let's dive right into Joe's interview today, where he's going to share some really insightful brands that you may not have heard of how their brand is all based on content, and some key brands that you might not realize that that's their strategy. So you're going to get some great nuggets and takeaways today that I know you're going to be able to implement and create a really solid content marketing strategy so your business stays around no matter what Google updates are going on. You're still going to be ranking and being found for your amazing content. So let's get started. Well, welcome back, lifestyle entrepreneurs. I'm so excited and honored for today's show. I have Joe Pulizzi from the founder of Content Marketing, and he's really first and foremost a content marketing evangelist. And he's just an absolute riot. Just to give you a little background, I actually met him at Social Media Marketing World on a boat, and he introduced himself, and he had a big group of people, and he was buying drinks for everybody, and I just kind of got looped into that group, and it was fantastic, and I got to meet an incredible man with what I would tell you about what he does. So what's really great is he began using content marketing back in 2001. So he's the founder of Content Marketing Institute, better known as CMI, and he's the leading content marketing educational resource for enterprise brands and recognized as the fastest growing business media company by Inc. magazine in 2013. So CMI is also responsible for producing Content Marketing World, which is one of the largest content marketing events in the world. And they're actually launching a new division here in Sydney in March. So that's March 2014. And it's also the leading content magazine called the Chief Content Officer. So, and what's great with Joe is he's spoken all over the world. He's spoken at over 200 plus locations, 10 countries, and he lives, eats, and he breathes content marketing, and he's developed keynotes to help large companies such as DuPont, SAP, Hewlett-Packard, Dell, Lucent, NASA, you name it, all these top companies, on how to use it effectively for their corporations. And also what's really exciting is Joe's just written a new book called Epic Content Marketing, which I highly suggest that you grab and be able to get well-versed in how he can teach you with content marketing. So without further ado, Joe, welcome. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fantastic, Kris. Is everyone still awake from that opening? That was a lot. I think you got literally, I was like watching This Is Our Life, and it was running through. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to be on. And we'll share an exciting 35, 40 minutes together. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. Well, I like to get everybody versed on what you're doing because it really, truly, content is king. It's where everything's going and where, as business owners, what we really need to be focused on. So I'd love for you to start with your story and how you got started in this and really took it, to the mainstream, honestly.
As you said, I've been using the term content marketing for a long time, but I started at a large media company in the year 2000 called Penton Media. It's actually right now, it's the largest independent business publisher. So they produce all kinds of titles that you wouldn't know about unless you're in those industries like Industry Week magazine and machine design and Windows IT Pro, those types of publications. And I started in 2000, and then later in 2001, I ran their custom media division. So basically what that means is that all these brands that were looking to do sponsorships or advertising with all these Penton brands, if we couldn't sell them advertising, they were throwing them over to us at Penton Custom Media and saying, look, we can't get any revenue out of these people. Maybe you can sell them something. And we actually started to put together custom magazine programs, custom newsletter programs, custom webinar programs. And we got into blogging and some social media. I left there in 2007. But that's where I sort of earned my stripes in content marketing. And really, I learned the reason why I really thought that this thing would take off is I spent a lot of time in front of a lot of chief marketing officers using a lot of different terms. Like I'd throw out, are you doing any branded content? Are you doing any custom content? Are you doing any customer media? Are you doing any custom publishing? I would use all these terms. But when I said content marketing, that was the one that they kind of sat up in their chairs. So if you work with a lot of marketers, we're sort of a paint by numbers crowd. So if you have to simplify it. So when marketers hear content marketing, they say, "Oh, marketing, that must be for me."
Right.
So that's when I knew I had a really good feeling that would be sort of the term, and that's what we launched. What is now Content Marketing Institute in 2007. But really, it was just a progression. Content marketing is a very old industry. It's been going on for hundreds of years. But now, because there's no barriers to entry for actually both consumers to get information and then brands to give out amazingly, hopefully, helpful, entertaining information, we're seeing a lot of content going both ways. And I think that for smart marketers, whether you're a small business or a large business, there's a huge opportunity to cut through that clutter with something that is really useful to your customers. And here now we are in 2013, 2014, and sort of content marketing is the center of what we're seeing, from search engine optimization to social media to demand generation. And all these marketers are trying to figure it out. So it's fun working with them and helping them figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really, I love that story. I've never heard you tell that before. So I love and what's great about that too, is even just with our content, like the right words and changing the title a little bit can pull in a whole new audience. So let's go there. What do you see are the biggest mistakes people are making with their content marketing today?
Well, normally people think that the biggest mistake is, you're putting too much sales information into your content, which of course, the more you sell on your content, I say the less it will travel. So if you want your content to actually be shared, you can't be talking about yourself, because nobody cares about you, your products or services. They care about themselves and their own needs and their own aspirations. So our content needs to be about that. But actually the number one reason why most content marketing programs fail is because they stop. We think, I mean, marketers have a campaign mentality. I hear it all the time. I mean, you can't go to a conference without somebody saying campaign of some kind. Well, when I hear campaign tells me there's a stop date. So if you think of a political campaign, you always know that at some point the campaign stops and somebody, gets the position, and, with the loser will go on to another campaign probably and start that over again. Content marketing is a marathon and it's not a sprint. So if you want it to work, you have to think like a publisher. Like I've been in publishing, as I said, forever. So I've spent 15 years in publishing. And when I was at Penton and we did any of our publishing programs and put together like, okay, we're going to launch a new content brand, we did a 3-year plan just to get us started. Because we knew that, we're not just out for 6 months and then we're going to switch it and talk about something new.
Right.
Or that advertising program's done, that marketing program's done, let's do something new. That's not the way. You could still do your marketing campaigns. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that you have to think differently about your content. I mean, this is a promise to your customers. So how do you position it that way? So that's a really, really important. There's a number of other ones like, I don't think brands are talking like human beings. I think most of the brand content I see out there is very boring. And I guess if you think about it, what we're in competition with for our content, we think most of the time we're in competition with our competitors for content marketing, which is completely not true. You're in competition with them and what your spouse is saying on Facebook and what Chipotle is doing with their videos, or what McDonald's is sending you, or the viral video on YouTube, and all the other information that you're getting on a daily basis. So that's why you have to up the ante, because your content has to be more interesting than all that stuff,
right?
To break through, and more helpful than all that stuff. So I guess those are some of the big ones that I would look at. I think that we're settling for right now, like the 5 tips to this type of content, which is really just what everybody else is sending out. And I think we've got to separate ourselves from the pack and really create something that has a unique point of view, that's not vanilla, that is definitely consistent, and definitely focuses on what the wants are of our particular audience, and not just talking about ourselves all the time.
I love it. Those are fantastic tips, because it really is. There's so much information today, and I like to kind of call we're in a scan economy today. So if your content really doesn't keep people there, it's not going to serve them as well. So what are with all of the companies that you work with, because I know you work with a lot of enterprise companies, what are the companies that you are seeing that are doing things really well, that are just grabbing your attention and are like, hey, that's who you should look up to?
Oh, there's a lot of good ones. There's one thing I would say, and we don't work directly with them, but Jonathan Mildenhall is a friend of mine. So Jonathan Mildenhall has a very long title at Coca-Cola, but he's basically their chief content officer. So he runs their brand storytelling program, and he developed their content strategy is called Coca-Cola Content 2020. Ooh. I would just recommend, if you haven't seen it before, if anybody listening to this hasn't seen it, just type in Content 2020 into Google. It'll come right up. It's 2 videos, one's 7 minutes and one's 10 minutes. And it's about Coca-Cola's content strategy and how they're trying to basically double the amount of servings that they have up to, I think, the year 2020. And they say, what I love about this is, they say the only way they're going to get there is not through being, creative advertising like they have in the past. It's through what they call liquid storytelling, or content, which is a cute name for content marketing.
Yep. That's brilliant.
So I love that. So I'll give another big brand I'll give you, which everybody talks about, and then I'll talk about some smaller brands, is Red Bull. I love Red Bull. If you were to say, what is the finest example of content marketing out there, I would say Red Bull. They have more than 5 million subscribers to their magazine, the Red Bulletin. They actually, their content is so valuable, they actually sell it to other publishing companies. They have a profit center.
Wow.
They have a profit center. They have they do a lot of different things. It's such an interesting case study. They actually underwrite musical acts, and they sponsor them to go different places, and then they take their music and syndicate that and relicense it.
How
and they
cool
generate
is
revenue
that?
from it.
Wow.
They do it from all their photos and all their videos that they've done. So they had the space jump guy, and they've got all these other wonderful videos that they put together. They license all those out for a profit, because if the New York Times or if NBC Sports is looking for content about a certain daring type of sports activity, Red Bull's probably got it.
Yep.
So they're just like a media company that just happens to sell energy drinks. So
Wow.
I love that. And then some smaller ones. One of my favorite out of Boston is OpenView Venture Partners. I talk about them in the book quite a bit. They've created a content platform called OpenView Labs. So they've got well over 1,000 content assets in video and audio, which they're trying to be the leading experts for entrepreneurs looking for venture funding. So
Oh, wow.
instead of how, normally it is, if you're a VC company, so OpenView is a VC company, it's, it's hard to get people to talk about you. You get referrals through your network and your board of advisors. And Scott Maxwell, the CEO over there, said, look, Joe, I read your book. I buy into it. How can we position ourselves as the leading experts? So now what they have is 90% of the employees in that company actively blog and create content.
That's fantastic.
So they're basically sharing their expertise. They're giving it away for free to draw an audience. They have over 20,000 subscribers to their email newsletter, which I think is great because it's basically 20,000 people raising their hands saying, yes, I'd like to get sales information from you, OpenView.
Yes.
But they're giving it away for free because it's of such value to that group of people. So it's completely changed their business. They have a podcast studio and a video studio inside the company now, which didn't take them that much to put together.
Yep.
And they're a very small company. So I think you can learn from somebody like an OpenView. For other case studies, I love Kelly Services, the old Kelly girl. They're doing some fantastic things. This is big Kelly, Fortune 500 Kelly Services.
Yeah.
They're doing some fantastic things with repurposing and reimagining their content. And I love my good friend Marcus Sheridan, who is CEO over at River Pools and Spas. Of course, Marcus. It's a great example of, if you were an entrepreneur trying to look at who to model after, I would look at Marcus Sheridan, which basically said, I'm going to answer every one of my customers' questions out there and become the expert. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and he turned his company around, everyone who doesn't know his story, which is just phenomenal. It's all from content marketing and became the premier provider. So those are phenomenal stories. I love that. I learned so much right now. I didn't know a lot of what those companies are doing, and it's all based on content and what can happen. So what I'd love for you to share, because you have worked with so many different companies and really figured out the ins and outs of what works with content marketing for companies. Is there a few basic steps that people can understand for content? Great epic content.
Yeah, of course we want epic content.
It's got to be the best, Joe.
Well, the first thing you have to understand is everyone out there is doing content marketing. I think the latest Content Marketing Institute Marketing Prof study we've done said that 93% of all companies do some form of content marketing, but the majority of those companies have no plan. Mm-hmm. So you wonder why there's so much horrible content out there is because we're just I call it filling buckets.
Right.
We're fill the Facebook bucket, the Twitter bucket, the blog bucket. We're just going to fill buckets and hopefully something good will happen. That's
so
really where.
True.
And by the way, this is big companies, billion-dollar companies are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So the first thing is get a plan together. And what does that mean to get a plan together? And so first of all, who's the audience we're talking to? By the way, it might not be our buyer. Mm-hmm. And that's why we use in the book audience persona instead of buyer persona, because you may be maybe you're trying to influence social influencers. Maybe you work for a school and you're trying to influence the government to get loans. Maybe you're I would make an argument that students at a university are not the buyers, it's the parents. Mm-hmm. So it's alumni. So if you look at even that example, you and I could come up with 6, 7, 10 different personas. So first thing, who are we talking to? Second thing is, what are we going to talk about that's at all interesting that has to do with our products and services that we sell? And what I would recommend there is that's where you get ultra niche. Most of us try to boil the ocean with our content, but actually most companies, you don't have one content marketing strategy. You have many little content marketing strategies that go on depending on who your audience is that you're talking to. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about, okay, who is that audience? What are we going to talk about that's going to be interesting? And this is my favorite one. Part of the content marketing mission statement is, what's the outcome you want for your audience? How are you going to help them in their jobs, in their lives in some way? Be aspirational. What's their wants and how can you fill that? Remember, we got to cut through all that clutter of everyone else. So we have to be the go-to resource for them. I really do believe we have to set that as the standard. So we better understand what that outcome should be for them. Mm-hmm. So once you get through those types of things, see, we haven't even talked about channels yet. We haven't talked about Facebook. We haven't talked about blog posts. We have to figure out what the strategy is, because you know what? Our solution might be an event. Our
Right.
solution might end up being a print magazine or a print book. So it might not even be social media. It might not even be online. So what most brands, marketers go to is they go right to channels. So and that's way in the process. So what we want to do is do that audience, content niche, and then focus on, what are our objectives for it. So if you think about, okay, let's say you buy into content marketing. So great. I'm going to do this content marketing thing. I was listening to Joe and Kris. I want to get this thing done. There's 3 things that you want to focus on as far as objectives go. And this is really, really simple. This is marketing 101, but it's amazing to me how many people don't do it. Number 1, is it driving revenue in some way? So our objective needs to push up, and we need to show metrics around revenue goals. Second, is it saving costs? So that could be right around like a customer service type goal, where maybe I don't need customer service people on the phone, and I can do some of that customer service with FAQ content on Twitter or on my website or whatever. So that's 2. And the third is it making happier customers? Those are the only 3 things I care about. By the way, if you are a marketing manager or director, or you report directly to the owner of a company, it's the only thing they care about. That's why you never show a Google Analytics report to those people, because don't open yourselves up to that kind of criticism. What we want to do is we want to make the case for whatever goals go into that. So if you're looking for revenue, we're looking at things like, are we creating more qualified leads? Are these leads, are they closing faster? Once we get them as customers, are they staying longer? How is content? And so it comes down to this: how is content creating better customers? There's this one case study which I love, which I'll just mention. There's one content management solution company. So when they sell a product, it's $100,000 or $200,000 product. It's a considered purchase. They said, "Hey, I'm into this content marketing approach." So they started doing it. They found out that it actually took longer to get a lead in, and it cost more to get a lead in, right? So most of us would say, "Oh my gosh, it didn't work. Let's go back." But see, that's when you have to have patience and go through the whole process. So 9 months later, because you have to go through the whole cycle, 9 months later, what they found out is those people that took longer to get into the pipeline and more money ended up spending twice as much, staying 5 times as long, and sharing information about the company twice as much than the ones that did before. So now you're the owner. You're saying, "Wow, I don't mind spending a little bit more for that lead, and I don't mind it taking a little bit longer because we created a better customer." So you kind of got to figure out where content can help you create better customers.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I remember you when you were on stage, when I first met you, you were talking about how it's changed about 11 times now that people need interaction with content, I think was the number or so. So I love that, because it shows exactly what you're talking about there. People today, we need more content to trust you, to like you. And then once you're in, and I like that strategy, because once you have loyal customers and you have a loyal tribe, doesn't matter what you throw at them, they're going to love and enjoy it, or engage with it and tell you vice versa. But I love that. That's fantastic.
Well, so we're recording the Google ZMOT information. So zero moment of truth information. So in 2010, what Google found is that before we made a buying decision, we engaged with 5 pieces of informational content. In 2011, that doubled to almost 11. And we anticipate that being 15, 20. We don't know what the new number is going to be right now, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
We're engaging in more content than ever before. So what's happening, though, we're engaging in more media, but we're being more selective as a percentage. So your goal is, how are you going to cut through all that clutter and get their attention? It better be awfully good. So a lot of people think, "Oh, no. It's only like today, like this time today, we've never seen more clutter." Well, that was true yesterday, and it was true 10 years ago. It's always going to be true. There's always a lot of clutter. So that's why I love the subscription strategy. Like if you can build a subscriber strategy where you become the must-see TV for your customers, and you focus on a small niche where you can be the leading expert, that's where I think there's an opportunity.
And it's brilliant. I mean, it is the niche, and it's so crucial. And I see so many business owners. I work with a lot of small business owners, but that's the problem there, the epidemic, because we want to go after everybody, and you speak to no one then. So that is just brilliant strategies. So what about the companies that are still trying to get on the content bandwagon? What do you say to that?
Well, besides the fact that please get a plan, like don't create any more content until you have an idea. And you know what, we joke about this, but it's tragic.
Yeah.
It's actually sad the amount of companies out there creating content that have no idea where the ship is going. So let's just, let's simplify it. Let's figure out where the ship is going and figure out where that niche is that we can really be the trusted expert for that specific customer or buyer or audience, whatever that could be. So I would simplify it instead of, this is maybe the best advice I would give. You don't have to be in every channel. You don't have to, a lot of us feel like, oh, what if we got to be on Twitter and Facebook and SlideShare and now Vine's out and Pinterest and what are we going to do? You don't have to be. I told somebody the other day, he's like, oh, I've got to be on Facebook. And I said, why do you have to be on Facebook? So because my competition is there and I feel we need to be there. I said, that's not a good enough reason. I said, why do you have to be on Facebook? You don't need to be on Facebook. I talked to a CMO, this is about 9 months ago, and I asked her, I said, why are you on? I said, let me help you understand how we can use Facebook to build your business, to attract and retain customers. I said, so tell me, what is your goal for why you're on Facebook? And she said, she's like, there was silence. And she didn't know. She didn't have an answer to it. And this is a big billion-dollar company.
Wow.
They don't know why they're on Facebook. So what I would do is I would go back in history. I'm a big history buff, as you know. I would go back in history and look at the way the greatest media companies of all time have built their business. And it's always been new technology. So you can't give me that, oh, it's different today. No, it's not. We've been telling stories forever, and we've got more. We've got a new channel every day to tell that in. That's great. But storytelling has always been what's consistent about the last 100 years. Every one of them. Look at ESPN. Started with the television as their platform. Now they're multi-platform. Yeah. New York Times started as a print newspaper. McGraw-Hill started in books. Whatever. You've got, whether it's a radio channel or whether it's an in-person events like TED. TED started as events, and now they branched out into a number of different online initiatives as well. Focus on a channel that you can really own. And I think that's a great way to do it. So instead of thinking, oh my God, I got to do a podcast and I got to do a blog post, I said, no, focus on one as sort of your center of gravity.
Right.
So I would focus on, and by the way, it could be a podcast. It could be ebook series. It could be a research series. It could be an event series. It could be a blog, which I love. I mean, most small businesses use blogs as sort of the center of gravity.
Yeah.
I like anything owned there. I don't like to start it on YouTube. And I don't like to start it on Facebook or SlideShare, although I love using all those platforms because I don't own that data. You're basically building your own media or your content marketing platform on rented land if you do that. Because if you build it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you build your subscribers there, which you should be, fans and followers and all that, that's great. But you don't own those. Those companies own those. What can we own? We can own blog subscribers, podcast subscribers, those types of things that we can start owning, and you could really build a direct connection with. So I would say simplest thing would be focus on that niche, but then focus on a channel that you can own and be that must-see TV.
Oh, I love that, because I still struggle with that overwhelm today. I think everybody, that's just kind of our nature, especially as entrepreneurs. We're so addictive to just what's new and what's hot and where we should be. But really, and even just breaking that down to what you own, where your customers are at, and what they like to engage in. But also, I always like to add what you enjoy using, because if you're on a platform that you don't like, it's not going to transmute and you're not going to have fun with it, and it's just going to not work for you either way. So I think that's brilliant to get consistent, to keep it simple, and then have the right funnels for yourself. So what are some other kind of takeaways that you can give on how to, let's go this way. So people have content out there, they've got a strategy now, they're implementing it. How do we start driving that for revenue with the business? Because I know that's always one of the big questions that people have with content marketing.
Well, the number, we talked about it a little bit, but I'll go into more detail, is you can show this if you have a subscriber model. So 95% of companies out there have no subscription model. And when I say subscription model, think of it this way. When somebody comes to your site, can they sign up to get regular content updates around a niche that you're trying to be the expert for. So for us, for Content Marketing Institute, you can go to the website. You can get a couple options. You could say, look, I want to get daily updates on the latest in content marketing news. Or you could say, no, I want a weekly roundup and sign up for that on what's going on in content marketing. Or you could say, no, I would like your print magazine. Every 2 months, I would like to get your print magazine in the mail, which is basically that goes to more senior level marketing executives. So we have 3 different options that you could set up subscription around. So why is that so critical? Well, once you figure out who's engaging in your content, then you can start to tell the difference between what's somebody doing that's engaged in your content from a business standpoint versus those that aren't. So here's I'll share my story because I love talking about what we do, because we do content marketing to promote our company, just like we want our customers to.
Exactly.
So what we found out is that 80% of our revenue, so whether people going to our events like Content Marketing World or buying our paid reports or our sponsors or whatever the case is, 80% of the revenue comes in from people that have been subscribed to our e-newsletter for at least 6 months. So what does that tell me? As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that tells me that, wow, first of all, before somebody buys, we need to get out, build our credibility with them and trust. Or maybe they're trying to learn this thing. So it takes them a while to purchase. What we sell is a considered purchase. We're not a consumer company.
Right.
It takes a while to buy a product that we have to sell. So what that says is, wow, it takes a little bit of a long time. We build that loyalty with them. And then once we build that connection and trust with them, they buy lots of stuff from us. So what that tells me is I can think about the business differently. That means in our website, when you go to our website, we're not selling you right away. We don't actually want you to buy right away because we're trying to create a better customer out of you.
Yeah.
We want you to sign up for stuff, and we want you to educate yourself and find out where you're having the problem, and we'll have a solution depending on where you're at in your educational process. Sign up there, and then when you're ready, we believe that you're going to buy from us because we've been giving you all this amazing information, and thank God it's worked. Right. And I don't have to go back and work for somebody that ourselves. If I can stay an entrepreneur. I like being an entrepreneur. I would like to stay one. So I think that's where we really get into it, if you have the patience and can go through it. Now, there's all kinds of different ways you could do it. You could say, look, I'm going to set up a blog, and I'm going to drive people will share my content. I'll drive them to my site, and I'll get more people to select my contact form, put them through a lead. So you might be wanting more leads, or maybe they're more qualified leads. So from that perspective, you can measure it. You can't look at things like web traffic is great, but those are what I would call user indicators. Likes, fans, web traffic, those are all really good things. Right. But they don't necessarily they tell us that there's a lot of activity. Yeah. But they don't necessarily tell us that somebody's buying, or if we're not enhancing or changing a behavior, you're just creating content. You're not doing content marketing. We want to do content marketing. We want to drive the business. So that's where I think if you do all those things and you don't have a mechanism like a subscription, call to a subscription, you can show the difference. Right. That's where I think you can miss out. Then it gets really interesting, because then you can get your subscription database and you can mix that against your CRM database. And if you have marketing automation, then you could see this is how many people, here's where people went and the kind of content that they engaged in before they became a customer, or this is what a customer did and he shared it with a prospect. So you can get really fun about content and then you can start to learn things like the average customer maybe doesn't become a subscriber until they engage in 4 pieces of content, but when they hit this kind of content, they subscribe. And then when they're in our database, we want them to hit these 8 pieces of content, and then they change their lead score and go to a different level and then we can go ding, 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 get the salesperson involved, because they're at a point that they're educated enough, and we feel that we want to take them on as a customer. Yeah. So that's where it really gets fun if you want to get into it, but. Again, let's start at the beginning with the plan and the subscription, and then we can move on to something a little bit more advanced.
Build a foundation, but that is really, and I love that. I love that. My background's all sales, but I love when you can determine in the process where people are at, how they're engaging, and that sets it up perfectly how you've just described that, when you've really laid the foundation to help people with that. I think that's great. I have a question for you. I've been interviewing a lot of other Facebook marketing experts lately, just with some campaigns I'm doing. Campaigns, there we go.
Exactly.
But, I was curious to get your take on this, because some people are saying that people are kind of moving away because buyer behavior is always shifting with their phones and technology. And some people have been saying that people aren't as apt to like and comment right now. They're more kind of just looking and watching. And I'm curious if you're seeing that, because I know a lot of people judge their content based on that, what you called the social kind of share, or whatever that term was. So I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Well, if we just take Facebook, I mean, and by the way, I'm no Facebook expert, but I will give you my take on it from being a Facebook customer and working with our customers on Facebook. Only about, unless you're buying ads so doing an ad campaign on Facebook, only about 1 in 10 of the posts that you put on Facebook actually get seen by your audience. So most people don't know that. I'm sure your Facebook experts talked about that. That's why you've got people like a Chris Brogan and a Guy Kawasaki flocking to Google Plus, because if you sign up to follow them on Google Plus, you'll see every one of them.
Yep.
And so that's why they love that. So even if you have a smaller audience on Google Plus, you can get more traction, or maybe equivalent, depending on how many you're posting and whatnot. So I would digress with that. I think just in general with social media, most people are lurkers.
Yeah.
Most people do not actively do anything on social media. They're more just looking around and seeing what's going on. And a lot of people don't comment. And like, I don't know what the number is, but in general, it's less than 1% comment on any kind of blog post out there at all.
Wow.
So there's a lot of lurking going on because people don't want to know that they're actually active on Facebook or whatever. They're just they just want to see.
Right.
They want to be the ones looking out the window at the activity. They don't want to be involved in it. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a majority of people on Earth. So I think that you just have to figure out how that channel is going to work for you.
Right.
Like I'll give you an example. I love if you know Maersk. Maersk is a big oil and shipping company, one of the largest ones. They're out of Denmark. They have over 1 million people that follow them on Facebook. So this is a shipping company.
Wow.
There's 1 million followers on Facebook. And then when you look at it a little bit deeply and you look at what the marketing people are doing, that's not for buyers. That's not their buyers. That's enthusiasts and employees. Because they want to talk. These are people that like to see big stuff shipped in big ships. And they like talking about it.
Yeah.
And they want to foster that community because they like when those people talk about it and share.
Yep.
But their buyers aren't there. Those aren't the people that are going to make the decisions on what to ship.
Right.
That happens on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's completely separate. So I think that if you really focus on what who's there, what audience you're trying to cater to on Facebook, I think that's where you'll be most effective. I think that's where most people don't know. They're just like, oh, let's share this and this and this, and we'll get all this engagement, and great, our analytics will go up and whatnot. But I don't know if they're really saying, this is who our audience is. And by the way, it's okay if you don't know, but at least ask the question to start with.
Right. Oh, that's brilliant. And I love that that's amazing to see the different channels and how they're set up that way, and really to take a look at that. I mean, really just get honest with what's working and what's not, and where you should be. I think that's brilliant. So I know we're almost here at the end. What's other takeaways that you can have that people are missing when it comes to content marketing?
Boy, I would say, I guess this one comes to mind because I've been talking about it recently. We say don't be vanilla.
Don't be vanilla.
You have an opportunity as a brand to take a stance. And I think what I see a lot of content, Me Too content going on out there, whether it's the 5 tips or what, it's sort of, we talk like we're an encyclopedia. It's very boring. It's like we're giving out, and it's like, so you've taken step 1 and you've given out information, but it doesn't have any style. It's not interesting. You're not telling a story. I would take a stance. I would be a little confrontational. I would have a personality. It's very hard for brands to do this, by the way, because like, oh, we can't be doing that. We can't talk like a human being. We have to talk like a business. Well, I guess what we've learned today is that talking like a human being is the new way to go to market. And probably what we should have been doing all along. So if you think more about that, so I would be like, say you have blog posts, figure out what your tone should be.
Yeah.
Is it authoritative? Is it sarcastic? Is it funny? Or is that how you're going to treat Pinterest or whatever the case is?
Yeah.
And when you do your channel strategy, we figure out, okay, why are we in each one of those channels? And each one of them is like, what's the tone?
Yeah.
What's our positioning and for how are we going to tell this story in this channel? So that one I would say is pick a side. It's okay to be, you don't have to be the Wall Street Journal necessarily and be like, we have to be non-biased. You don't have to be non-biased. You are biased.
Yeah, exactly.
Revel in your being biased. Accept it and take a stand with it. I think you have to do the regular content work, right? So if you look at Coca-Cola's model, 90% of their content is pretty much that, they got well-produced content, they got a lot of heavy lifting content, they got blog posts they got to do every day. 10% of that is all experimental.
Yeah.
I think you have to take 10%, just like Google does. What is it? 10% of all their employees' time.
Yeah.
They do whatever they want to do with it. Mm-hmm. You have to do that with your content marketing too, or there's not going to be any innovation. We've got to take risks with our content. You might be saying, look, there's an opportunity. We could do a podcast.
Yeah.
What would it be on? Something weird and wacky and new and whatever. That's fine. Give it a 6-month timetable. Do a pilot. Here's our goals. Here's our objectives. Let's see if we can hit that. Yeah. And that's the 10% of your time. Now you can only do 1 or 2 of those at a time, but I think we've got to learn to innovate. And what's interesting with what Jonathan Mildenhall at Coca-Cola says, he said that 10% is usually the least expensive. It's not the most, it's not the highest produced. So it might be, hey, you're going on the road with salespeople. We're going to do some interviews, but we're going to do them on, ongoing, or maybe it could be an employee blog.
Yeah.
Those types of things that you want to get going to get your information out there, just thinking a little bit differently about it. I guess the last thing I would say is it's not content marketing is not an either or thing. It's not like we're going to either advertise or do content marketing. We need to do both.
Right.
Actually, it's just that we're overweight at advertising and paid media and underweight in owned media.
Mm-hmm.
What I look at is be simple about it. Don't overcomplicate it. How can content make your process better?
Mm-hmm.
How can it be the butter on your bread, right? So it's like, oh man, this bread tastes a lot better with butter. That's what I want your content marketing to be.
Be the butter, baby.
This way. So let's say you do pay-per-click. A lot of us do pay-per-click.
Yep.
We're trying to get found in Google. We're advertising on Google or Bing or whatever the case is. What if instead of doing a call to action to a demo or your product, what if you do that to something educational?
Yeah.
And here's what I would predict if you do that. If you do that, you will get less clicks, so it'll cost you less money, but those clicks will turn into more things.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that and test it. You could do A/B tests all day long. You could test it in Google's. Go ahead and test that type of thing. And I think so it could do a little bit, make those things better as well. And I would look at sponsored content as well. There's a lot of sponsored content opportunities there to amplify the content you're already creating. Mm-hmm. A lot of times there's brands out there that create all kinds of content, but they don't have an audience. Well, you have to build an audience. So if you don't have that, you could use sponsored content. And then the other thing, and when I talked to you at the social media event that we did in the spring, I was talking about figure out how you can help the influencers in your industry.
Mm-hmm.
Create a list of 5 to 10 people, social influencers, about where your customers are hanging out and how you can get in front of them. And you can get in front of them by sharing their content. Mm-hmm. Share their content on a consistent basis. Have that be part of your social media sharing routine so you can start building relationships with those people so that at some point they'll share your content with their audience so that you can you want their audience to be your audience at some point.
Brilliant. And that strategy, you're building a massive relationship that way. And that's what I love about what you shared with that strategy. And it works so well. And it's fun. It's really engaging. But all of these tips, this is just a gold mine of information, Joe. Thank you so much. So my one teeny last quick question before you go. If you had to start all over today, you had no contacts and you had no resources, what would you do to rebuild your empire?
What would I do? Well, this is going to be boring, but it'd be absolutely what I would do. I would probably get a PC and a Wi-Fi connection. Mm-hmm. Maybe if I had no money, I guess I'd go to an internet cafe. Do whatever I had to do. I would pick a niche that I'm passionate about, and I would probably create a blog, or I would go through the process. I would go through, who am I trying to target? What are their wants? And how can I be that indispensable piece of content? And by the way, it'd probably take about 6 months. So I'd be really poor for for 6 months. I probably have to live in the streets for a while. It'd be tough to do this. But after a while, you would start being so helpful that people would rely on you. And then you build your business model around that, which is pretty much what I just laid out is what I did in 2007. Well, we barely had 2 nickels to rub together, created what is now the Content Marketing Institute.
Yeah.
Didn't have any, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
So it works. It can work. The other thing that I would do is I might do something around building up the city of Cleveland. I love Cleveland. I live in Cleveland, and that's one of the reasons why we have Content Marketing World in Cleveland every year.
Oh.
And I might do something around that kind of passion too. And I think it's working, actually. I think what we're doing is working to give Cleveland kind of a second start, a second look by a lot of businesses. And so I might do something around that too.
That is fantastic. I love that. That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on that as well too, because that is a huge event. So this has been an absolute blast, an absolute honor. Thank you so much for taking time. If you can share where everybody can find out about you and what you're working on.
Sure, yeah. So anything for CMI, you can go to contentmarketinginstitute.com. You can for the book, go to epiccontentmarketing.com, and then we have a free chapter available. So if you're not sure, even though we gave out a lot of goodies here, we got a lot more in the book. But if you're not sure about that, go to epiccontentmarketing.com and just click on free resources. And there's a free chapter. I believe it's chapter 13 on the content marketing mission statement, which is one of my favorite chapters. And so you can get that for free. And then anything on me at joepulizzi.com.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Joe, for joining us.
Thank you. Anytime.
And I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'd love to get your feedback here for the Lifestylepreneur podcast right in iTunes. Simply leave us a 5-star and a review letting us know what you like, who you're interested in hearing more from, and what topics you really want help with in your business that I can bring on those key experts to really fine tune and help you in your business and creating the lifestyle of your dreams. And I'll be giving shout outs, so make sure you put your name and your website address if you want me to share that with the community as well. And again, thanks for listening. I'm so excited that you found the Lifestylepreneur podcast, and I can't wait to connect with you and learn more about your business as we continue to grow this community. So again, have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Lifestylepreneur podcast. Again, I'm Kris Gilbertson, and I'm committed to bringing you top training from leading lifestylepreneurs all over the world to help you break through and turn your dreams into your ideal lifestyle. And make sure to join us at www.lifestyleacademy.com to receive VIP training from specific guests I interview on the show, so that you can really easily start to implement what you've learned from listening. I know we're all busy, and sometimes we don't have time to listen to the entire podcast or take notes, because I'm always listening on the go. So I like to call it the Lifestyle Cliff Notes to creating your ideal business and make it really simple for you. So those will be sent via the email list. Plus, I also want to connect with you personally, and being on the Lifestyle Academy mailing list is where all the magic happens. We'll host VIP trainings once a month that we can't always bring out on the podcast with even more detailed information. And I also want to connect with you personally. I want to know what's going on in your business and what you need help with, and who I can bring on to aid you in creating your ideal lifestyle. And so I'll be asking questions every once in a while that I want you to reply, and I reply back to you personally. So again, until next time, wishing you on your way to achieving all of your dreams. Talk to you soon.